听说大城市里的千万富翁都不找老婆了。
It is said that in today's major cities in China, many 10 millionaires seem to be gradually giving up on the idea of marriage, especially in economically developed areas like Shanghai and Hangzhou. A 10 millionaire from Hangzhou once revealed that he knows many people with similar backgrounds, such as property owners who received demolition compensation or landlords with multiple rental properties. Within these wealthy circles, a significant portion remain single, and some are even uninterested in finding a wife. Why do these wealthy men prefer to live like monks at home rather than finding a wife? Meanwhile, many young and beautiful women hope to marry into wealthy families and are flocking to various matchmaking markets, hoping to find a financially stable partner. This phenomenon feels somewhat delicate. Wealthy men are no longer enthusiastic about marriage, yet women eager to marry into wealth remain abundant. This mismatch in supply and demand has created a unique situation in the marriage market, allowing matchmakers to continue profiting. However, in reality, wealthy men seem to be gradually withdrawing from the marriage scene. This trend is not only seen in major cities but also in some prefecture-level cities. Especially among those wealthy individuals who have experienced failed marriages, most of their assets and properties were divided during divorce. If they were to marry again, and if another divorce followed, they might face further asset division or even bankruptcy. Therefore, more and more wealthy men are beginning to realize that some women are interested not in them personally but in their assets, such as properties, cars, and savings. Consequently, in the eyes of these wealthy individuals, choosing not to marry has become a wiser lifestyle choice, freeing them from the potential risks and pressures that marriage might bring.
有一些富豪现在就是不结婚，我有个大哥就不结婚。
Nowadays, some wealthy individuals indeed choose not to marry. I know an elder brother who is like this. He doesn't plan to get married, but he found a girlfriend who is 17 years younger than him. This girl used to be a civil servant, but later, the elder brother didn't allow her to work anymore. They have been together for more than 2 years. Every year, he buys his girlfriend a property, while her own salary from her job was just over 4,000 yuan per month. However, the clothes she wears each cost tens of thousands of yuan, all funded by him. Once, they had a fierce breakup fight. The girl, emotionally distressed, expressed that she absolutely wants to get married and have children in the future. She cried in despair, even vowing that she must get married. In the end, the elder brother gave her another property. The reason he doesn't marry ultimately comes down to his financial power. As for whether he likes this girl, he definitely likes her, right? But with this mindset and way of handling things, his choice not to marry makes sense. You see, the elder brother is in the trade business in the United States, with a net worth of at least 300 to 400 million yuan. If he marries this girl, should anything happen, he could face a division of assets, possibly losing up to 150 million yuan. Thinking about it that way, not marrying seems pretty good. Now, many wealthy individuals who are already married actually regret it, feeling that marriage isn't necessary. Even if they are very satisfied with their spouse, marriage still brings certain constraints, especially financially. Suppose you have an asset worth 200 million yuan. Imagine, no matter how much you love your partner, would you be willing to give them 100 million yuan? Those who easily make such promises are often the ones who don't have 200 million yuan. Imagine if you really had assets worth 200 million yuan, would you still make that commitment so casually? Many people say that if they had 1 billion yuan, they would donate 100 million yuan, but most of these people are saying so because they don't actually have that kind of money. It's like now, some people have 1 million yuan but may not necessarily donate 100,000 yuan. This kind of thinking and behavior essentially comes from people's control over their own wealth and their choices.
我跟我身边30加的创一代的男性朋友聊天。
Recently, I had some discussions about marriage with a few male friends in their 30s who have each achieved annual incomes exceeding 1 million yuan and have successfully started their own businesses. Their common perspective is that after the age of 30, the allure of marriage gradually fades. When we talked about the reasons, they mentioned that the pressure of running a business is high, and they're constantly busy every day, leaving little energy to experience the kind of first love romance they had in college. They no longer want to put effort into pursuing women, nor are they willing to spend time and energy on activities like dinners or movies. Now in their 30s, they have become more rational, and their pursuit of romance is no longer as invested as it once was. For these successful entrepreneurs, living in first-tier cities, having a house and a car with manageable financial burdens often makes the single life feel free. They tend to engage in short-term relationships with women they get along with, rather than choosing the long-term commitment that marriage brings. This mindset is quite common in first-tier cities like Guangzhou, especially among men who have an economic foundation. They believe that marriage would add extra pressure, such as the financial burdens of raising and educating children. And if a partner cannot contribute financially or improve their quality of life, they often feel that staying single is more suitable. Men's attitudes toward marriage also vary at different ages. Young men who have just entered society might look forward to a pure relationship. For instance, many wealthy individuals shared that in their early 20s, they were willing to give a lot to their girlfriends. However, after experiencing setbacks in relationships, they gradually became more realistic or felt hesitant about marriage for various reasons. If they meet a suitable partner willing to marry in their early 20s, there might be a greater chance of early marriage. But after going through the trials of society, career-driven men around 30 to 35, having shed their youthful naivety, view relationships more rationally. They are not in a rush to marry because their advantages in age and career give them a broader choice, allowing them to attract many young women. However, once men are over 35, they generally start focusing more on family stability, with pressures from parents to marry and have children pushing them toward a positive attitude toward marriage. At this point, they value a woman's social contributions and emotional connection, hoping their partner can provide support and stability. After reaching 40, they may start to let go of the strong desire for marriage, viewing it as no longer a necessity in life, but if they meet someone who moves their heart, they may still consider it. For middle-aged men who are highly successful in their careers, they tend to become simpler and more sincere in their choices for marriage, no longer seeking financial capability in their partners but focusing more on companionship and emotional resonance. At this stage, they hope to find a partner who loves them for who they are, not just their money. For them, the goal of marriage is affection rather than a means to maintain wealth. Some women might think of using children to secure a relationship, but in reality, even having children with a wealthy man does not necessarily ensure a marriage. For example, in China, there are beautiful women who have had 3 sons with wealthy men yet never married them, and some women have been with celebrities for 20 years without a marriage certificate. Binding affection through children is also unfair to the children, as some wealthy men are willing to provide long-term support for their children but may not give the mother a marriage certificate. For young women considering marriage, especially when facing high-quality, successful men, it's worth pursuing boldly. However, if the man cannot explicitly commit to marriage, it's wise to let go decisively. Why do so many rich second-generation individuals hesitate to get married? Men from ordinary families often have to live single lives reluctantly due to lack of money. However, those from wealthy backgrounds, who enjoy abundant material lives, also choose not to marry, which is hard to understand. Take a look, some wealthy parents prepare a house early for their sons, buy a car, and provide a solid family background, yet the children still aren't in a hurry to marry. Could it be because the parents introduced too many girlfriends, making them dazzled and unwilling to settle down? Or perhaps they enjoy the dating experience but don't want the constraints of marriage. These rich second-generation individuals may even date one girl after another, free from the moral or responsible binds of marriage. This seems to fulfill a particular mindset. They can experience the sweetness of love countless times without bearing the burdens of marriage. Actually, wealthy people aren't lacking in female friends, as their wealth acts like a magnet, attracting many women who approach and flatter them. Many girls hope to become the significant other of a wealthy second-generation individual, so they certainly don't lack dating opportunities. They can fully satisfy their physical and psychological needs in romantic relationships, enjoying happiness and fulfillment without needing marriage to achieve these. In modern society, wealthy people can even pass on their lineage through other means, such as choosing to have a child via surrogacy, avoiding the complexities of marriage. Many wealthy individuals simply want their own descendants without necessarily building deep emotional connections with the child's mother. For women of lower social status who try to cling on, these rich second-generation men may only maintain the relationship as long as they provide emotional value. Otherwise, these women may be seen as second-class citizens within the family. Marriage does indeed impose a certain degree of restraint, especially for the wealthy. Once married, they need to take responsibility for their partners and can no longer date freely as they did when single. For families of similar social status, marriage can also serve to preserve and enhance wealth, becoming a strategic partnership. However, from a legal perspective, spouses are not blood relatives. If a wealthy person leaves their estate to a wife with no blood connection, this outsider could potentially inherit a large portion of the wealth should they pass away unexpectedly or grow old. This is a significant risk for those who prioritize wealth management. As a result, wealthy individuals are more inclined than ordinary people to control their wealth and avoid letting the fat flow into others' fields. This mindset is somewhat akin to ancient Egyptian pharaohs who chose to marry within close kin to ensure power and wealth stayed within the family. For modern wealthy individuals, unless they meet a family of equal standing, the risks of marriage and uncertainties in wealth distribution often make them hesitant. They can fulfill emotional and physical needs outside of marriage, enjoying the benefits of love without bearing the restrictions that marriage brings. Staying single grants them more freedom. They can use their wealth as they please without having to explain their whereabouts to anyone. Conversely, for ordinary people, remaining single is due to a lack of money, while for rich second-generation individuals, it's because they have too much money. In certain aspects, money is a good thing, but on the other hand, it also brings some burdens. What do you think about this issue?
自从我嫁给富二代之后，我的人生就从巅峰跌到了谷底，我也不知道什么时候能翻身。
Since marrying a second-generation rich man, my life has felt like it's fallen from the peak to the very bottom. I don't even know when I'll be able to rise again. At the time, marrying him meant we shared our assets, but it also meant I would shoulder his debts. He gives me a bit of living expenses from time to time, but I often have to watch his mood, and I'm raising our child alone. His parents don't help at all. It's all my responsibility. Growing up, I was always seen as a good child in others' eyes, excelling academically and never causing my parents any worry. I even paid for most of my tutoring and tuition through scholarships I earned. However, after meeting my current husband, I truly felt life at its lowest. This experience taught me that life can't always be smooth. If life is too smooth, it may just be setting the stage for future pitfalls. Let me introduce my husband. His family is somewhat well known in our area, with a family-owned factory that his parents built from scratch. He himself is quite accomplished, working as a manager in a branch of the family factory. We met through a relative shortly after he returned from studying abroad, and we hit it off immediately. Since he was introduced by someone I trusted, I didn't worry too much. With little experience in relationships, our wedding was grand, bringing pride to my parents. People around me envied me, saying, "You're so lucky to have found such a good man." I also thought the wedding was the peak of my life, but from that day on, my life went downhill. After marriage, I could hardly make any decisions. My life was completely controlled by his family. My parents-in-law kept urging me to have a son. When we married, his family gave a bride price of 660,000 yuan, which he later borrowed back, citing an investment in the family factory, and gave me an IOU, saying he'd pay interest monthly. But in the end, the money wasn't repaid, and I didn't see any interest, just some blank notes left behind. After I got pregnant, he said my job only paid a little over 4,000 yuan a month and that I'd be better off quitting. He promised to give me 20,000 yuan per month for living expenses. I was indeed having a tough pregnancy, and I had some issues at work and wasn't getting along well with some colleagues, so I decided to quit and stay home. After our daughter was born, they began urging me to have another child. Before I even finished my postpartum period, I was already being pressured for a second child. On the surface, they seemed to care for me, hiring a postpartum nanny and a housekeeper, but I didn't have a single cent in hand, relying entirely on credit cards for daily expenses. Meanwhile, he enjoyed himself, often coming home after midnight. Then, one day, I accidentally discovered some flirtatious messages on his phone, which left me torn. Should I endure it or confront him? For the sake of giving my child a complete family, I chose to endure. However, his behavior became increasingly excessive, pushing me deeper into despair. During my second pregnancy, he brought a document saying that the family factory needed funding, and he wanted me to co-sign as a guarantor and mortgage our house. But this house was my premarital property, already mortgaged once. Still, he demanded I sign, and I ended up shouldering an additional 1.3 million yuan in debt. Before marriage, I wasn't wealthy, but I had savings and confidence, and my family was proud of me. But now, with 2 kids, a son and a daughter, I am a full-time mom, living on credit cards, dependent on his moods. I have not only lost my initial savings but am also burdened with 1.3 million yuan in debt. I am trapped in a situation with hardly any way out. I want to remind all my sisters, be cautious when choosing a partner. Sometimes, we might be swayed by fleeting happiness to choose a seemingly ideal wealthy partner, but often, the real pitfalls of life only appear after marriage.
In my opinion, if an ordinary girl chooses to date a second-generation wealthy man, this path is essentially destined to be bumpy and hopeless. Do you think he's really the heir to a family fortune worth tens of millions? Do you think he's the smart, handsome man who studied abroad? Do you think he's the wealthy heartthrob that so many girls dream of? These are all unrealistic fantasies. The real power and wealth are in his parents' hands, not his own. So, what kind of man can stand at the center of the market? It's those who hold power and wealth, and second-generation wealthy men usually lack both. The biggest value of a second-generation rich man is actually his family background, and you need to be clear on that. It's not about him himself. So, if you want to date a second-generation rich man and hope to gain something from this relationship, you have to understand that this relationship will bring you many challenges. His parents are the real decision-makers. If you want to get past this, you have to make yourself seem even more outstanding than the second-generation rich man himself. That's why I say, for an ordinary girl, dating a second-generation rich man is a dead end, and even in the short term, it offers minimal returns. You'll not only have to worry about the many beautiful women around him who pose a threat to you, but also foresee that if you really want to stay with him for the long term, you'll need to first examine your own background to see if your family conditions can be accepted by his parents, and be prepared for a prolonged game with them. Actually, despite all the realistic difficulties mentioned, second-generation wealthy men are still very popular in the market because many ordinary people can't overcome the psychological halo surrounding rich people. Many people think that dating a second-generation wealthy man means they're closer to social resources and supposedly closer to a happy marriage life. However, this kind of closeness is actually an illusion, much like the distance on a map between Iceland and Malaysia, which looks like a mere 20 centimeters at a fingertip's width, but is, in reality, thousands of kilometers apart. So, ultimately, dating a second-generation wealthy man is like a splendid display, appealing from afar, but requiring immense sacrifices up close. Do you agree with my perspective? Feel free to leave your comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you like this video, please like and subscribe to our channel. Your support means a lot to us, and we will continue to bring you better content. Thank you again for watching, and see you next time.